You know that feeling when you realize you missed something? Something important that was right there in front of you the whole time. We've all been there. Well, today, we're going to dig into exactly why that happens. And we're going to explore a really simple shift in focus from what we'll call big Fs to little f's that can completely change how you see your world, your work, and yeah, even yourself. So here's our game plan. First, we'll get into our brain's default settings, why it's so easy to miss the small stuff. Then, we'll introduce the two lenses, big Fs versus little f's. After that, we'll look at the big F trap that so many organizations fall into, and then flip to the solution, the incredible power of focusing on the small things. And finally, we'll bring it all home and see how this can transform our personal lives.
All right, let's kick things off with a fundamental truth about our brains. They're amazing, right? But their default settings can actually cause us to walk right past some really crucial details and opportunities.
So it really all boils down to this one question. Why do we have these massive blind spots? Why do we miss so many important cues and signs? The thing is, it's not some personal flaw, it's just how we're wired.
Okay, first up, you've got something called the Reticular Activating System, or RAS. The best way to think about it is like a bouncer for your brain. It's standing at the door of your mind, and it's filtering millions, literally millions of bits of information every second. It's trying to keep you from getting overwhelmed. It only lets in what it thinks is important, which is why, you can be in a super noisy room and still hear your name called from across the way. Your RAS decided that was priority one.
The other part of this puzzle is what's called System 1 thinking. These are basically the mental shortcuts and maps we build over time. Just think about when you were first learning to drive. Remember how much concentration that took? Every mirror, every signal. But now you can probably drive for miles completely on autopilot. That right there is System 1 in action. It's fast, it's efficient, and it takes almost zero mental energy.
But here's the catch, and it's a big one. While these systems are absolutely essential for us to just get through the day, they create some serious blind spots. They are designed to filter out anything that doesn't fit our existing worldview, and that causes us to miss new ideas, really important details, and tons of valuable opportunities.
So these built-in brain filters pretty much create two totally different ways of seeing the world, and that's what we're going to call the big F lens and the little f lens.
This slide just lays it out perfectly. On the left, you've got the big Fs. These are the huge dramatic events that scream for our attention. But on the right, you've got the little f's, the small, seemingly minor details that our brain usually just tosses aside. And the most important difference? The big F's often feel completely out of our control, while the little f's, well, those are entirely within our power. So let's talk about big F's. These are the headline grabbers, right? In a business, this is the massive new project, the company-wide restructure, or that big merger everyone's talking about. Our brains are basically hardwired to zero in on these because they feel like a huge threat or a massive opportunity.
And then you have the little F's. These are the subtle things, that quick conversation in the hallway, a tiny tweak to a process, that quiet look a colleague gives you. Our brains are programmed to just ignore this stuff, to see it as noise. But what if it isn't? What if these are the very first signs of a huge breakthrough, or maybe the early warnings of a total disaster?
Okay, so let's take this idea and apply it to the workplace. Because when a whole company gets obsessed with only seeing big F's, it can fall into a really dangerous trap. And that trap has some serious consequences.
This big F obsession tends to create two types of dysfunctional cultures. First, you get the red bus organization. This is your classic top-down command and control world, where all the big ideas are supposed to come from the top. And that, in turn, usually leads to a green bus culture among everyone else, where it's just safer to keep your head down, follow orders, and wait to be told what to do. It just crushes innovation and engagement.
And this quote just hits the nail on the head. While the leaders are all locked away planning the next giant strategic move, the rest of the organization is literally walking past thousands of small, actionable chances to get better every single day. The potential is massive, but it's completely invisible if you're stuck in that big F mindset. And hey, if you need more proof, check this out. It's not just that the big F focus blinds us to other stuff. The big initiatives themselves often fail. The data is just shocking. Over 80% of major, large-scale change efforts don't even deliver on what they promised. It is a strategy with incredibly high risk and, more often than not, very low reward.
So, if the red and green bus ways of doing things are failing, what's the alternative? Well, this brings us to what's called the blue bus organization, a culture that really understands and harnesses the incredible compounding power of little F's.
The whole philosophy here is to count the ones. So instead of getting overwhelmed by some massive distant goal, you just focus on making a tiny 1% improvement every single day. You break big problems down into small, manageable steps. And this is so motivating because you see progress right away. And those small wins, they compound over time. Kind of like interest in a savings account.
And this approach unlocks one of the most powerful rewards there is, the second paycheck. Now, this isn't about money. It's that deep internal satisfaction of knowing your work actually has a purpose, of feeling a real sense of achievement, and knowing you're part of a team that's getting better every single day, one little F at a time.
So what do these little Fs actually look like? Well, they're simple, everyday actions that literally anyone can take. It could be taking an extra minute to have a really good conversation with a customer, or running a small safe-to-fail experiment on a new process, or just improving the clarity of the next email you send. Each one is small, low risk, and completely within your control.
And look, this isn't just some business strategy. Not at all. The little F lens is an incredibly powerful tool for transforming our personal lives, our relationships, pretty much our overall well-being.
A big F life is this constant chase for the next big thing, the promotion, the new car, the fancy vacation. But a little F life? That's about finding joy in the small moments of every single day. A big F view of relationships is all about grand gestures, but a little F view knows that real strong connections are built on hundreds of tiny daily interactions, a kind word, a shared laugh, really listening.
So when you really boil it all down, whether we're talking about a thriving company, a strong relationship, or our own moral compass, it all comes back to the same thing, our ability to see and to act on the little Fs. It's all about counting the ones.
Which really just leaves us with one final question for you. With this new lens, what is the one small, maybe overlooked detail, the one little F, that you, right now, have the power to act on today?